Welcome back to Salvation from the Old Testament as we speak further about those in the Old Testament that had a personal relationship with God. It seems very obvious they did, given what the scripture says. And we've already looked briefly at David. I wanted to look further at David and Psalm 32, a psalm of David. Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. It's very important because how can anyone have a personal relationship with God unless their sin is dealt with? Because God is holy in all his works, righteous in all his ways. And how can he have a personal relationship, fellowship with someone who is a sinner? And it's interesting to note in Psalm 51 and verse 5, a psalm of David, he said, Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. He recognized he was born into sin with a sin nature. But back in Psalm 32, in verse 2, Blessed is the man unto whom the Lord imputeth not iniquity. Somebody, David, knew that was a blessed person, that God would not credit to their account their own sin, and in whose spirit there is no guile. I believe David was this man that he was thinking about, and perhaps others that he knew, because the Bible teaches that, as we've already seen in our videos, that David was a man after God's own heart. Also, over in Psalm 51, we're told in verse 8, Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which thou hast broken may rejoice. Hide thy face from my sins and blot out all mine iniquities. And in verse 12 of this Psalm of David, after he was getting things right with God, after being confronted about his sin by the prophet Nathan, verse 12, Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation. This is the salvation he had already had, and he just wants the joy to be restored. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and uphold me with thy free spirit. Do you, like David, have a personal relationship with God? Are you blessed, like David, as a friend of, as a man after God's own heart, to have a personal relationship with God and to walk with him by faith? God clearly said in the book of Amos, how can two walk together except they be agreed? And it sounds to me like David and others in the Old Testament were in agreement with God. God bless you.